As gardeners, there is one thing that we all need in order to sow our seeds, build our soil and feed our plants, and that's compost. Now, if this year turns out to be anything like last year, well, that's going to be really hard to get hold of if you haven't got it already. In this episode, I'm going to give you 9 reasons why you should make your own compost at home. I'm Tony O'Neill and this is Simplified Gardening. Now, you may have tried making compost at home before and maybe it didn't work for you. Maybe you got a slimy mess or it just didn't break down. Or you did get it to compost, but it was full of weed seeds. Despite all of that, I still believe that homemade compost is the best for your garden. And with a little knowledge, I know that you can make the best compost at home, and I'm going to give you 9 reasons why you should. And number 1, it clears the waste from the garden. During the gardening year, we create huge amounts of waste, whether that be fallen leaves, hedge trimmings or bush trimmings, all of the decaying matter and the stalks and stems of all of the crops that we've grown. This waste would either have to go to landfill or to your local amenity site, and either way you would still need to bag it up and either take it there yourself or hope that they'll come and collect it. And the problem of this is that you don't get all of your waste at the same time. You're generating it throughout the season, so you would have to make multiple trips to take it away. Now, this eats into your gardening time and there's usually a cost associated with it too. Number 2, if you're an organic gardener, then you know exactly what's being put into your compost, because when you're buying shop bought compost, you can't be sure that they haven't added feed that is of a chemical nature. By controlling the ingredients, you get to create nutrient-dense compost so that you can feed your garden soil and your plants in turn. With store-bought compost, you don't have that ability. You don't actually know what's in it, and you have no control over its nutrient density, because for all you know, it could be just made up of tree clippings. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that store-bought composts are bad, because I use them as well. The size of my garden, I couldn't possibly make enough, even though I'm making around 9-10 of it every single year. But what I am saying is that homemade composts are much better. Reason number 3, it feeds the microbial life in your soil. Now, most gardeners who buy compost think that they are using that to start their seeds and it's going to feed their plants, but that's not the case. Compost is actually only there as a medium, but its main factor is feeding the soil life, all the microbial and bacterial life that's in your soil. That's what compost is for, and in turn they feed your plants. What do I mean by this? Well, in every single teaspoon of good quality compost, there are billions of bacteria, microorganisms, fungi and protozoas, and these are the soil life that actually feed your plants. You see, these microbes and bacteria, well, they're the start of the food chain, and they work throughout the soil and they're feeding on the humus and the organics that are in the compost. And because of this, they are then going throughout your soil, defecating and sometimes dying and breaking down, but they become food themselves for larger microorganisms like protozoas and nematodes. Now, these continue to grow and they do the exact same thing. They then themselves either feed and defecate and die or be consumed by larger and larger animals, and so it goes on right up to the sort of worms, the voles and everything else that's in our ground. There's a huge ecosystem down there, and we need to start right at the very beginning and feed it. Reason number 4, there is so much microbial life in homemade compost that you can make your own fertilizers from it. Now, there are fertilizers called compost tea, and this is basically just a fermentation of compost in water. That's the very basic form. But over the years, there has been some major sort of developments and people creating their own recipes around this very subject. So in its real basic form, as I said, this is using nutrient dense and rich compost and steeping this in water. Now, like I said, over the years people have developed their own recipes, but what a lot of people are doing is using worm castings, because these are known to have huge amounts of beneficial bacteria, and they use that in conjunction with the compost. Another thing that people do is replace some of the water with other teas like nettle or comfrey, because this can add tons of nitrogen or phosphorus and potassium, because these weeds are what's known as accumulators, and they pull that up from deep down in the earth. And then when you are making teas from those and adding that to your compost tea, well, you're only benefiting the tea itself. So there are two methods to brewing compost tea, and they've both got scientific evidence and studies behind them. And the first of those is aerobic compost tea, and the second is anaerobic compost tea. Now let's take the latter first. Anaerobic compost tea is where you get the compost ingredients, put them into a big net, put it in a barrel and put a lid on, fill it with water and put a lid on that barrel. Now that then removes the oxygen from the area, and that produces anaerobic compost tea. But there's a much better way, and the most popular is aerobic compost tea. Now with this you do exactly the same thing. You put your ingredients into a sack, put it into your barrel, but instead of putting a lid on it this time, you place in an aquarium air pump and you pump oxygen through it. What this does, it provides the oxygen so that all the microbial life and the protozoas and everything that's in that compost and within the water are able to breed because of the high amount of oxygen in that water. Now all of that microbial life in the water now needs, because they're producing, they need to be able to feed, so we need to provide them with a food, and for that we would use molasses. The thing about this compost tea is it is a fantastic thing to be watering your plants with, and you can't use too much. There is no way you can overdo it, so all you're doing is adding all of this microbial life to the soil around your plants. So it's really good to use, and it's very good to use as a spray as well, but also as a drench. Now, using kitchen scraps and all the waste from your garden, you are able to produce beautiful compost just like this. Now, all of this was created from my garden, and if I turn you around while I got you here, you will see that just there is a huge mound of compost. There's about 3 tons per there, which came out of those 2 bins. Now those 2 bins and this one are where that came from, and we've got this one left in order to still produce and add to this compost here. Now the reason I've dug it out from there is because I'm now able to fill these bins again. 2 of them are already full while I've been clearing the garden. This will be the next one that's coming out, and as you can see, it's a little bit frozen at the moment. I've just taken the lid off, and we've well, as you've seen through the video, we've got snow everywhere, but look at that, it's beautiful. And this is about maybe 3 feet high. This is a standard pallet, so it's dropped about this much, but as you can see, I'm not going to be worrying for compost this year, and this is what it's all about, guys. Reason number 6 is that you can make sure it's organic. Now, I know that anything I pull off my garden here that goes in there has been grown organically. The problem you have with shop bought and amenity site compost is that it's been collected from multiple sources, usually from the whole village and surrounding villages. You don't know what they've been putting on their plants. They may well have been spraying glysulfate everywhere, and that's gone through the composting process and could end up back on your plants. So the only way in which to make sure that you're growing organically is to produce it yourself. Number 7, shop bought composts have often got too hot. Now you may have noticed if you buy from the amenity site and things like that, and you have a bulk delivery, that compost comes back and it's really dark, really black in colour. Now, good quality compost shouldn't be like that. It should only be like a dark coffee colour, a dark brown, and the reason for this is because it got too hot. Now what this does, it kills a lot of the microbial life within the compost itself, and it's down to windrow composting, where they have huge rows of composts and they turn that constantly to get it to break down quickly. The problem with this is that it overheats and it just destroys all the microbial life. But you do get all of that good humus and the organic matter, just not so much life in it. And a prime example of them getting too hot is that if there isn't enough moisture in them, these windrows can spontaneously ignite. That's how hot they get. And being a firefighter, I've attended many of incidents that have been involved with compost windrows that have got too dry and then they've spontaneously ignited. Now, when the heat is that high, that's not good for the microbial life. Number 8, this helps to build a soil structure too. Now, unlike the compost bought in stores, the homemade compost is a little rougher. It hasn't been sieved to death, and that's good for the microbial life. It adds tons of organic matter back to the soil that the worms and other organisms can take down into the soil, and it does lots of things. It stops soil erosion, it stops the ground from baking in the sun, it'll help in creating waterways within the soil itself, and then because of all of this, it allows all of the bacteria to feed on the humus, and that starts that life cycle again. But one thing that's quite important with the whole aspect of adding this compost and improving your soil quality is the fact that it aids water retention, and because of that, it can be used in amending clay, sandy and silty soils to help with that water retention. So number 9, it helps climate change, because if you consider that you had to take all of your compost to the local amenity, then you would have to bag it up, and each time you had enough, you would have to take it to the local amenity site. Now, when you're doing that, you're using fuel to get to that local amenity site. Then when they have it, they use fuel in order to put all of this stuff through a massive giant shredder. They use fuel in order to turn those piles with big machinery. Then once it's done, they package it in plastic and into plastic bags that end up on a pallet, and then that's cling film wrapped. Then they use fuel to take it to a depot, and it goes from there then to your local store, which is again using fuel. And then you have to go and use fuel to go and pick it up. So there's huge amounts of carbon footprint on a bag of compost, and people don't think of it like that. Whereas you can get it and you can just dump it in a box like this, and you can basically do this with it, and away you go. And this will all be compost in a couple of months' time that I can use in my garden. It's got absolutely no road miles on it. It's got no fuel price. I haven't had to pay for it. I just want to show you here. I don't know if you're going to pick up on this, but this is just all the old bits of leaves and things I've put in here now. This isn't going to get that hot because I only emptied these the other day with Caitlin, and this was all stuff I just scraped off the garden, so mainly it's browns in here, but I was using it to store and we will mix it later. But if I dig down into the core of this, now bearing in mind there is snow on the ground everywhere here, but if I, as you can see, there's a lot of soils and stuff in it, but there's heat down here. I don't know if you can see the steam coming off it. You might just be able to make out some of the steam coming off it. This is warm, And yes, there is compost here because this is where we cleaned out the greenhouse and everything else. So we just chucked all the compost and everything else in. What we will do with this though is we will add lots of green material to it as it becomes available in the spring. And then this will be our sort of June's compost that we'll use. And then we'll make another batch then ready then to use like we do now. So you see, I've got 4 or 5 ton of compost that I can use throughout my garden, you know, when I need it in early spring. And all the stuff I'm pulling off the garden now over the next couple of months will end up back in these bins, and I'll pull it out again maybe in August or September, something like that. That'll end up on the garden as well. And then all the stuff that's coming off the garden will end up back in these, and it'll be ready like it is now. I'm filling these 5 compost bays. I'm filling them every year, twice a year, and getting around about 9 ton of compost. And because I'm able to create a little bit more, the one that where I built you temporarily, I built a compost bay to show you how to make them. Well, we moved that from up the side of the garden, and that's here now. And I'm going to use that as well. So now I have 6 bays of compost here. You know, you can't, even though you can buy this stuff, you just can't get this quality. So, and I'm not producing enough for myself, so I still have to buy some in. But I'm telling you guys, if you can produce it at home, it's much better. Now, I understand that this video is giving you all the reasons why you should make your own compost at home, but it hasn't actually told you how to do it. But don't worry, I've got you covered for that as well. If you've got value from this video, then you can subscribe here. And like I said, I've got you covered. If you want to learn how to make this nutrient dense compost at least twice a year and tons of it, well, this is the video you should watch next. I'm Tony O'Neill, and this is Simplified Gardening, where I show you how to garden in a simpler way. Remember folks, you reap what you sow, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.